Welcome to the deep dive. Sometimes you use a piece of software, an app, or a website, and it just clicks. It feels smooth, intuitive.
Yeah, like it gets you.
Exactly, like it knows
Yeah.
what you want to do next. Just feels right. But then other times, oh man, you wrestle with software that feels completely clunky, right?
Uh-huh. Disjointed, like fighting the interface instead of using it.
Totally. It really makes you think, what if building software wasn't just about the features, the functionality? What if it was about crafting that feeling, that
Yeah.
connection?
Designing for resonance.
Precisely. And that's what we're diving into today, this really fascinating idea called vibe coding.
It's a cool term.
It is. Our deep dive today comes from the intro chapter of a book, actually, called Vibe Coding, Principles of Harmonious Software Development. And our mission really is to unpack this idea. How does it propose to bring together, creative flow, the user interface, even the software architecture, to
Mm.
create something that resonates, something beyond just, well, lines of code?
Yeah, and it's interesting because vibe coding isn't just like a fresh coat of paint on existing ideas. It feels more fundamental.
So,
Well, the book positions it right at this kind of unique crossroads. It's blending cognitive science, how our brains process things, with experiential design,
okay.
which is all about crafting those memorable interactions.
Yeah.
And then it connects that to low complexity software engineering.
So like low code and no code tools.
Exactly. But it's framed as an evolution beyond just using those tools for speed. It's about using them to design for the experience itself, making sure the software feels as good as it actually works. It's about consistency, empathy, operational fluidity. Wow, that whole package.
Okay, let's unpack that term vibe a bit more.
Yeah.
In a tech context, it sounds a little out there.
Mm-hmm.
How does the book define it? What are these cognitive vibrations it mentions?
Right. It does sound maybe a bit mystical at first, but it's actually quite grounded. Think about tuning an old radio. You turn the dial, and when you hit the right frequency, the music's clear, it's sharp, it sounds right. But if you're slightly off,
Static, noise.
exactly,
Yeah.
static. The book suggests users have these cognitive vibrations, their own sort of mental rhythms, their emotional state when they're interacting with the technology. Vibe coding is about trying to tune the software to those user vibrations.
Ah, I see. So it's less about literal vibrations and more about alignment, feeling in
Yeah.
sync.
Precisely.
That's-
It's about understanding that user experience on a deeper level, almost subconscious, so the interaction feels smooth, effortless, like that perfectly tuned radio. If the software is off frequency for the user, it creates that mental static friction, frustration.
Makes sense.
And if you look at where this comes from, you really see its interdisciplinary nature. The source mentions things like visual semiotics.
Which is like the meaning of icons and symbols.
Yeah, exactly. It's the language of visuals. Why a red X means stop or delete everywhere, or a green check means okay. Vibe coding uses that intentionally. Every visual cue, every tiny animation is meant to shape the user's subconscious experience, making it feel natural.
Okay.
Then there's digital ergonomics, basically, making digital interactions comfortable and efficient. And interface psychology, which is really about the mental steps we take when we use software. But the key thing, I think, is how it tries to overcome that old split between function and beauty, functionality versus aesthetics.
Right, the idea that you can have one or the other, but maybe not both.
Yeah. Vibe coding says no, that's a false choice. For software to be truly great, function and feeling, what it does and how it feels, they have to be in harmony. They need to work together seamlessly.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for me. If we're talking about designing this vibe, who actually does that? Is it just a UX designer with a new title, or is it something different? The book talks about a vibrational programmer.
That's a really good question. And no, it's not just a rebranding. The book describes a vibrational programmer as someone who really operates from these principles of intuitive coherence and functional harmony.
So they're not just coding.
Not just coding, no. They're crafting the experience. They need that solid technical foundation, of course. But they also need this deep, almost instinctive design sensitivity. Think of them as like a bridge.
A bridge between what?
Between the abstract feeling you want the user to have, that desired emotional journey, and the concrete reality of code, interfaces, and interactions. So what kind of person is that? What's their profile?
Well, the source actually digs into that. It suggests a specific cognitive typology for them, but also stresses the importance of complementary soft skills, empathy, communication, that kind of thing.
Right.
These folks apparently thrive in teams where different disciplines mix, especially in innovation-focused settings. Why? Because they have this unique knack for connecting the technical how
Yeah.
with the aesthetic feel.
They're not just ticking off feature requests. They're almost like orchestrating sensations,
Yeah.
making sure every click, every transition, every piece of feedback not only works flawlessly, but feels right. That's incredibly valuable, especially in complex projects that evolve over time.
So let's get practical. How do these vibrational programmers or any developer wanting to adopt this actually do vibe coding? You mentioned low code and no code tools earlier. How do they fit in?
Yeah, they're pretty central to the how. It sounds like these tools are seen as enablers for vibe coding.
More than just shortcuts, then.
Definitely more than just shortcuts. The book apparently doesn't just list tools, it classifies them, compares them based on how well they support this vibe coding philosophy.
Interesting. What makes a tool good for vibe coding?
It seems to focus on a few key things. Deep visual customization is when you need control to shape that aesthetic vibe.
Makes sense.
Then, modular management of interaction logic. That lets you build and tweak the user's journey piece by piece. And importantly, architectural transparency, especially for bigger enterprise-level stuff where you need to know what's going on under the hood.
Right. Clarity and being able to scale it.
Exactly. So these aren't just your basic drag-and-drop website builders. They're more sophisticated environments designed to let developers really sculpt the user experience without getting lost in, endless boilerplate code.
And how does the book suggest evaluating these tools? Is it just about the features?
No, it's more holistic. The source talks about a dual approach, looking at both the technical capabilities and the qualitative aspects.
Okay, like what?
Well, obviously, the technical specs matter, but it puts a lot of weight on UX criteria from the developer's perspective, too. Plus, things like emotional usability of the tool itself, the cognitive load it imposes.
Ah, so how does the tool feel to use?
Precisely. And also things like interoperability. Does it play nice with other systems? And the learning curve?
Yeah.
Can your team actually get good at using it effectively?
Right.
So it aims to provide practical guidelines. It's about finding the right instrument for the specific music you want to create, considering your project and your team. Because the tool itself influences the developer's own vibe and energy, which inevitably seeps into the final product.
Okay, so we have the programmers, we have the tools. Let's talk about the outcome. Vibe coding aims for interfaces that resonate. What does that mean in practice? How do you design for resonance? It sounds deeper than just good graphic design.
Oh, it definitely is. The source dives into the cognitive principles behind it all, how we perceive things visually, how we interact fluidly. It talks about concepts like digital synesthesia.
Synesthesia, like seeing sounds or tasting colors, how does that apply digitally?
Yeah, kind of. It's about creating a cross-sensory experience, but intentionally designed. So maybe when you complete a task, you don't just see a check mark. Maybe you see the check mark and you hear a subtle, satisfying sound and maybe feel a tiny haptic buzz on your phone.
Ah, okay. Linking different senses together.
Exactly. Linking them to create one cohesive, positive felt experience, not just something you see. Then there's visual rhythm.
Like music for the eyes?
Sort of. It's about creating a harmonious flow in the interface, guiding the user's eyes smoothly, naturally, reducing cognitive effort, and harmonic feedback, making sure the system's responses feel completely natural, expected, almost like a good conversation partner who anticipates your needs. These aren't just fancy terms. They tap into how our brains are actually wired. The book apparently offers heuristic models, even operational frameworks, to help guide this kind of design specifically within low-code environments.
So practical tools for achieving this feel.
Right. And the focus is heavily on emotional usability, how does the software make the user feel, and also the narrative consistency. Does the whole experience tell a coherent, satisfying story from start to finish?
A story through software.
Uh,
That's a powerful idea. So bringing all these pieces together, the programmer's intent, the tools, the design principles, how do you manage that complexity in a real project? The book introduces something called the vibe canvas. What's that about?
yeah, the Vibe Canvas sounds like a really key piece. It's described as both a methodological and an operational tool. Its whole purpose is to help orchestrate the project development, specifically in this vibrational key, as the book puts it.
Okay, so more than just a project plan.
Absolutely. Think about how often projects get stuck, Right.
Right.
Devs focus on functions, designers focus on feelings, and sometimes those worlds just don't mesh well.
Been there.
Right. The Vibe Canvas is designed explicitly to bridge that gap. Its unique function is to represent all the components, the functional requirements, the desired emotional journey, the narrative flow, all in one integrated view.
So everyone's looking at the same picture, emotionally and functionally.
That's the idea. Promoting a truly holistic view of development right from the beginning.
What does it actually look like? What are its components?
Well, the source apparently illustrates the different parts. For example, it might include something like an emotional trajectory mapper.
Wow, okay. What does that map?
It charts the intended emotional state of the user at different points in their interaction. So you're not just designing, say, a login screen. You're designing the transition from maybe slight apprehension to relief and easy access instead of stumbling into frustration and forgotten password.
That forces you to think about feelings at every step.
Exactly. Feelings, not just functions. The source also explains how to actually implement this canvas in different project contexts, and importantly, how it can integrate with existing methods like agile development or evolutionary design. It seems like it's the key to making sure every element, big or small, contributes to that overall harmonious vibe.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up a bit. At its core, vibe coding seems to be about a pretty significant shift, wouldn't you say?
Definitely.
Moving away from just making software that works towards creating applications that genuinely connect with users. On a deeper level, maybe even an emotional one. Software that doesn't just do stuff, but that feels, well, feels right.
Yeah.
Feels almost alive.
Yeah, and it really pushes us to rethink the whole process, doesn't it? Who builds the software, the vibrational programmer,
Yeah.
how it gets built using these evolved low-code tools thoughtfully, and ultimately, what kind of experience it delivers.
Right.
It connects those dots, cognitive science, design thinking, actual engineering, in a way that argues a truly great digital product is, well, it's more than just code. It's this blend, this alchemy almost,
Yeah.
of logic and emotion.
So here's a final thought to leave everyone with. If software can have a vibe, if it can genuinely impact us like this, moving beyond pure utility to create real resonance,
Hmm.
what does that imply for the future, for how we interact with technology?
That's a big question.
Could our digital tools become more than just efficient assistants? Could they become, I don't know, truly harmonious extensions of ourselves, reflecting and supporting our own cognitive and emotional states, almost like a natural part of our thinking and feeling?
It certainly opens up that possibility, doesn't it?
It really does. It feels like we're just scratching the surface of what it means to develop software that truly, deeply feels right. Definitely something to think about.